and that's Dad. Dad lived to the ripe old age of 93. And that's my sister Angie as she looks today. Uh-huh. And that's me. Uh-oh.
The story of Liberace is oft-told. Here's a man who was obviously very, very talented, extraordinarily talented, but the irony is that that isn't always enough.
No, that's true.
And he walked out at the Hollywood Bowl on a particular concert, all wearing all white. True?
Yeah, that's right.
Isn't that when the lightning escaped from the bottle? And...
Well, I'd always worn a black full dress suit, you know, on my television series, and I wasn't really into costumes and things like that. And when I played the bowl, they suggested I wear something that could be seen by the people in the back row. So I wore a white full dress suit instead of a black one. And it caught on. It was daring, because this was 1952. It was very daring for pianists playing with a symphony orchestra to wear a white suit. You know, that was considered very flashy. And then, of course, when we realized that the impact of the white suit, then we went a little further and started wearing gold lamés and brocades and things like that.
And you have become a part of America's 20th century popular culture scene.
You have beautiful eyes. They sparkle like your diamonds. And how old were you at your first public performance?
I was 13. I was a classical pianist, and...
You must have been scared to death, or were you?
No, I always had fun with my music. In fact, my teacher, Florence Kelly, in Milwaukee, had a rough time with me because I had such a good time, and it didn't go with the music. You know what I mean?
Oh, I see.
I was playing classical.
The Bach Mass doesn't work with... if you...
And I had a tendency to want to talk to the audience. And she said, for God's sakes, don't say a word. Just sit and play, you know. But that's really how I got into this trademark of talking to my audience.
Yeah. Incidentally, while I'm thinking about it, you mentioned Baldwin, to whom I think you've had a professional allegiance for a number of years. You've been kind enough to say Steinway. You've played and enjoyed. How do you feel about the Japanese products? How do you feel about the Yamaha piano?
Well, I think they make some very good ones. You know, I've played on some that are excellent. I think when you get into the concert grands and the big grands, you're talking a major musical instrument. You know, you're not just talking about a little spinet that they turn out on a production line.
Right. And are you about to say that you favor the American product then in the big ones?
Well, the thing is, I favored Baldwin because they were so nice to me early in my career to furnish me with pianos, and I really couldn't do them much good at that time. Nobody knew who I was. And the fact is that even Paderewski, who used the Steinway, had to pay rental every time you got at one of their pianos. So I got mine for free.
Yes. Paderewski missed the old swapperoo idea here in the marketplace. Yeah.
I was wondering how many fur coats you own and which one is your favorite.
Well, I love them all. In fact,
well, that makes us feel better, because we don't want them going home feeling like second-class citizens.
I think the thing is that there are some people who resent the fact that they make coats out of fur and so forth, but I never wear furs of an endangered species, and I wear furs that are bred to make coats, you know. And usually these people who are very adamant about my wearing furs, I'll look up at them and smile and I'll say, do you eat steak? Do you eat chicken? You know, do you eat lamb? Do you eat, and it's amazing because their comeback is that, well, they have feelings, these animals that are made into coats. They have, so do the lambs, the chickens, and the cows.
Yes. Is there a caller there? Hi. Go ahead.
In 1975, Warwick, Rhode Island, at Warwick Musical Theater, a young woman came up to you, Lee, and proposed to you, along with handing you a copy of your autobiography, that autograph for me. You turned
appreciate that. The fact is, you know, the longer you stay single, the more you appreciate your freedom. I hate being possessed by anyone at all. In fact, so many of my friends who are married, you know, have to answer to their wives or their husbands. They can't make a decision without conferring with everybody in the family. Well, I don't have to do that. I
Maybe you
just,
have to check with Seymour.
oh yeah, I tell him whether I'm going to do it or not, you know.
Let me see 8215. The caller can see your TV, I'm sure.
Yes.
David?
Gorgeous.
Yeah, you have to get in line with Lee. Here's Mae West.
What a fabulous lady. I loved her.
You loved her sassiness, did you?
Well, actually, the only time she appeared sassy, as you say, is when she was out in public. But she never really, when I first met her, I was a birthday present. And some mutual friends put a big ribbon across my chest, and I rang the doorbell at her apartment house. And a great big muscle guy answered the door. She always surrounded herself with bodybuilders, you know. And I said, I'm Mae West's birthday present. So she came to the door and invited me in, and I was absolutely thrilled that this woman took the time that evening to tell the story of her life as Mae West, because she really wasn't Mae West while she was talking to me. She was a lovely lady who didn't drink or smoke or swear or anything.
Really?
But, you know, in public and in the movies and everything, she became a sex symbol.
And a
But
body.
she created her, you know. And I learned a lot from this lady. I learned that I, too, am a creation. I created Liberace that people know on the stage that wear the outrageous costumes and all that. But that person is different than the person who's talking to you now. You know, I feel that I'm also a private citizen, and I love to do things that everybody else likes to do.
She gave you permission then to be an outrageous performer. Is that right?
Well, I think that was one of the reasons she liked me so much, is because she realized that I was becoming well known through being
Flamboyant.
flamboyant, yes. And of course, she certainly was.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories about her is the fact that she invited me to have lunch with her in Malibu at her beach house, just the two of us. And I was thrilled, and the maid came in with the telephone and said, I hate to disturb you. And she said, please forgive me for taking a phone call during our lunch. And then she got on the phone, and it was very brief. She said, oh, is that so? Oh, how marvelous, you know. And then a minute later, she hung up. She said, I bought some land in the valley, and I completely forgot about it. They just sold it for $17 million. And I said, oh, that's terrific.
And you waited for your phone to ring.
Yeah.
Let me just see those other pictures briefly, David, and then we'll move on. Judy
Garland.
You have certainly walked with the royalty of our business. Next slide.
That's Michael Jackson. I invited him to dinner at my house. There's Dolly Parton.
Mm-hmm.
I invited Michael to have dinner at my house in L.A. And just as we're walking into the dining room, he says, I forgot to tell you I'm a vegetarian. You know, so I got out all the frozen vegetables.
We saw you with Elvis.
Yeah, that was Elvis. You know, Elvis at the time, that was about the middle 50s. He made an appearance in Vegas for the first time, and the adult audience didn't know who he was. The kids did, but not the adult audience. And he was booked in with Freddie Martin's orchestra, which was a strange booking, you know. And his manager, Colonel Parker, came over to me at the Riviera Hotel where I was appearing, and he said, would you do my boy a favor? And so he brought him over, and we exchanged jackets. He sat at the piano, and I held his guitar. And that picture went all over the world. It was kind of a gimmicky picture, but it was fun.
And then finally, Jack Benny.
I love that man. Yeah, he was so great.
La, 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 la.
You know, it's a funny thing. I was guest on his show many, many times, and this one time, he wouldn't let me see the set that they were going to use for my appearance. And I said, why not? He said, it's a surprise, you know. And of course, somebody did tip me off. They went to my home in the valley in Sherman Oaks, and they copied it, but exaggerated style. You know, like...
How could you exaggerate your home? That I'd want to see.
Instead of 10 candelabras, they had 100, you know what I mean? And so, when I finally got to see the set, he watched my face, you know, and I said, it's beautiful. You know, I played it real straight, and I said, oh, you really captured my home. It's really lovely. And of course, it was outrageous, you know. The stairway and everything was all lined with candles.
Here's just a suggestion of Lee's home. Just a little chandelier he picked up at an antique shop.
You know what, Phil, when they were hanging that chandelier, they had to get up on the roof, you know, because they had to reinforce it because it's very heavy. And
Yes.
some of the neighbors saw these men on the roof, you know, and they thought I was being robbed. So they called the police. And I'm telling you, they came up with machine guns and said, what's going on here? I said, you're hanging a chandelier.
Lee, Liberace is soon to be playing Radio City Music Hall. Several dates, October
16.
to next
November
month.
2nd.
To November 2nd.
21 show.
I heard you tell this, Smith. You don't mind if I tell him?
No.
You're going to fly during this performance,
Yeah.
as in Peter Pan.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you mean out over the audience?
Well, all over the stage, you know. Well, in order to fly over the audience, they'd have to build a scaffolding that would be
Well, that's all right.
unbelievable.
No, I think seeing you fly over the stage would be just as... flying over a piano is
It's
an
a big
unusual
stage.
event.
It's a big stage.
So you've got the harness and the people with the pulleys and the...
Yeah, everything. And the costume, of course. Somebody said if man was meant to fly, he would have given him wings, right?
Yes.
I got the wings.
You are also working with a 15-year-old protege, whom we'll meet in a moment, with whom Liberace will play a duet that will knock your socks off. And we'll be back in just a moment. Eric Hamelin joins us. Guess what? He's 15. You are a protege of Liberace's, having been working with Lee now for 2 years. What, 15, huh? And you probably, I'm sure you don't smoke or drink anything, do you? Boy, I'll tell you this. Your folks should write a book. Did you always like the piano, Eric? Or just give us briefly, you know, because we all want to have young people that are interested in music as you obviously are.
At first I was kind of a little bit interested in it. And like when I started out I was 3 and Mom and Dad pushed me a lot. And that made me
Up the wall.
furious. I couldn't stand it.
You didn't like it, huh?
But after a while I did it on my own a little more and that's when I began to like it.
When you started realizing you could do this without an adult breathing on the back of your neck, you started to enjoy it yourself.
Right.
Well, you obviously are a very, very talented young man. Richard Rogers is the man responsible for this work, and I know that because you've just reminded me. It is also from the musical work On Your Toes. This is Liberace and Eric Hamelin in performance, Slaughter on 10th Avenue.